What does this bucket of water have anything to do with today's video? Well, we'll get to that in a minute. Welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports and another edition of product reviews. And can you believe it that someone actually asked me what the name of my bike shop was? Yeah, I say it every video at the opening, but sometimes people miss it. In that viewer's defense, yes, I could have had a different name for my YouTube channel as I have for my business, but in this case, for simplicity's sake, they are the same. This is also the shorter title, Rev Cycling. If you don't want to say Rev Endurance Sports, you can easily find me as Rev Cycling. Okay, so today we're going to go over my current experiences with these Tubolito tubes. In a previous video, I talked about why I was going to do some product review and some experimentation with these. And to summarize, basically, I'm not a fan of tubeless. I think there's some confusion out there. People think that the retro grouch doesn't like tubeless because it's something new. But in fact, I've been trying to make tubeless work since 2008. So I've used it for 14 years. So when I tell you, and when I poo-poo certain ideas and certain technologies and certain things, I want people to understand I've used something for thousands and thousands of miles and tried to make something work. In this case, tubeless. I've ridden tubeless, multiple size tires, multiple production, rim, spec, tires, all that stuff. But let's stay on topic here. Tubolito. What I was trying to do is move away from tubeless, find something else. I went over to latex. Latex was dropping too much pressure. In a 9-hour line-to-line ride, it dropped like, I think it was 12 psi, from 90 psi down to 78. And that's too much drop in pressure. If someone's doing a 3 or 4 hour ride, I doubt they'll notice anything. But I generally do longer rides. Longer centuries and 200K and 200 milers. So I need something that retains pressure for at least 12 to 14 hours, right? Even a fast double is going to take me 12 hours with, 10 to 12,000 feet of climbing. So in a previous video, we went out for a ride and I double flatted. Now in the video, apologize for the profanity, but I thought I only had one flat. I was changing that tube from a Tubolito to a latex tube, and the rear was fine at the time. So this was the front flat, and the rear was fine when I pulled over. But by the time I plucked out the goat head, the rear now. Actually, by the time I did all the flat repair and was ready to roll away, now my rear is flat as well. So that's what you caught on the video, and I apologize. But the thing is that both Tubolitos, front and rear, punctured. So then I said, wow, that is an awful waste of money. And I had read and heard that you could patch the tubes. So I said, okay, let me try this. So I tried a glue type patch with the, the roughing up with the sandpaper, the whole process, right? But when I put that patch on, it lasted about maybe 24 hours or so. And I was pretty impressed. I was like, wow, it's holding air. It's not a total waste of this tube. And then I realized, like 12, so about 24 hours, maybe 36 hours later, the tube had gone flat. And I'm like, oh, this well, this sucks. And I know that there's a patch kit that Tubolito recommends. And, the last time I checked, it is the next dates are, supposed to be in stock today, the 15th and 16th at 2 different warehouses, and it's still not in stock. And then the next date is mid-January. So, I can't use the specific Tubolito patch. Well, then I said, okay, let's try something else because I can't wait that long. And I decided to use a glueless patch because it is less fuss, less of a mess. And this also comes with the little sandpaper and these little patches. And so I scrubbed it. And the thing is, this stuff seems so, these TPUs seem so delicate that, if you scrape too much, I think I'm going to damage it with the sandpaper. But anyway, and then I put one of these little patches. Now, this is a knockoff brand. It's a house brand to one of my distributors. But I put this on. And, after the scrubbing, I did some alcohol to make it nice and clean. But on this one here, it had one pinhole from the goat head. And this has been holding air quite well for, this is 3 days. So that glueless patch has been holding. And then on this one, this had 2 pinholes, patched them both. So the front, I tried to do the same kind of thing as what happened on my bike. So on the front one, and by the way, these are just some wheels that are here that I stretch things out on. But it's got broken spokes and stuff. But anyway, so these are not roadworthy wheels at the moment. This one had 2 patches, and this one is 2 days old, and this one is 3 days old, and they're both holding air with a glueless patch. So that's working for me. This disclaimer here, you have to do you. Your mileage may vary, your patch kit may vary, whatever. This is not this is not the holy grail or gospel or anything for you to patch your tubes because what I did, But what was the reason for the bucket and the silly little prop at the beginning? Well, the thing is that with these tubes, you cannot inflate them too much outside of a tire. It is stated in multiple places, and I'm going to get to that. But if it expands too much, then it can become damaged. It needs to be inside of a tire. And so when you air it up, and like let's say using a butyl tube, you can air it up quite a bit and take the time to keep looking for that puncture by either by hearing it or by rubbing your hand over it and eventually finding the puncture. But you can only put like about 7 or 8 psi, half a bar, in one of these TPUs, and then it may take you a while. Plus, there's not a lot of pressure, so it's not making a lot of noise. So you can't find the hole. So that's what the bucket was for, right? So we got to go old school. We got to take our tube, just like we used to when we were kids, and put them in the deep sink in the garage. Or if you didn't have a garage, which I didn't for most of my life, it went in the bathtub of the sink. Okay, so that's what the bucket's for. You're probably going to need that because you just can't put a lot of air in these TPUs. All right, well, so now we know we can patch them. The patch kit that is made by Tubolito is not in stock. I tried the Rima with the glue, and for some reason that didn't hold, so I'm going with this glueless patch. But let's go over a few things because I think this is also very important. And then we'll go over some of their frequently asked questions. Okay, so if you want to use valve extenders, they say you can, but a lot of the tubes, the valve is glued in, so you can't get the valve, the core out. And those are the type of extenders I like to use. The ones where you can remove the core, screw in the valve extender, and then that core, put it on the tip. That way you have an operating valve core on your extender, on your valve extender. There are the type that just go over the top of it, but then you can't control the valve. The valve is always in an open position, and you screw the valve extender on there. I've done a video about these, but I can do a separate video about that. If you are using these tubes between different wheels and different setups, the key is to make sure that they are the same size. In other words, you don't want to put a tube on a 28 tire and then go over to a 23. The tube has stretched out too much for the 28, or to be used in a 23. So just something to be aware of. These things suffer from what they call plastic deformation. So you want to make sure that, if you're riding 25 tires on your road bikes, then that's easy, or maybe 28 to 28, but you wouldn't want to go from 28 to 23 if you don't go down. Maybe you can go up, but they don't say that. They do specify that you use a manual pump, so not to use a compressor. But that's something that, if you can dial down the rate, I think you could use a compressor, but their precautions, their disclaimers say do not use a compressor. So keep yourself safe and just use a manual floor pump. Okay, they talk about temperature increase, and they talk about how every 3 Celsius, about 5 degrees of Fahrenheit, that increases your pressure about 1%. So the example that they give, and I'm going to read it so we don't make any mistakes here. If you air up your tires at, let's say, a 65 degree garage, 18 Celsius, then later on in the day, you've gone from 65 Fahrenheit to 95 Fahrenheit, or 18 Celsius to 35 Celsius. They claim that would be about an 8 psi increase in your pressure. And if you're someone who's already maxing out the tire pressure in your garage, well, now you're going to be over that. And they also mention that this is, now I race in deserts, and I also train out here in the deserts of San Diego. But, the tarmac, you have ambient temperature, but there's a tarmac pressure that's really, really important to consider with a lot of these things. And so the tarmac is a lot hotter than the ambient temperature. And so they say, if you're racing in really hot climates, that tarmac can be all the way up to 150 degrees. So you can consider that. They also talk about if you have your tires in your car in a closed, a greenhouse effect can be a serious issue. And if you think, you're going to do that, store your bike inside your car, then you should let down the air pressure about 20 psi. One of the things I noticed that I thought was interesting is that these tubes apparently wear down. So if you can't have them forever. So you will need to, according to them, every time you change your tire, it's a good idea to replace your tube. That's something I hadn't thought about. They talk about heat tolerance, and the butyl tube being up here, latex tube being here. They say that they slot in kind of in the middle of the two. And that's that heat tolerance thing is important for people who run rim brake like me, because they say there are potential hazards if you overheat the air inside your rim brake bike. But that's never been an issue before. But anyway, for those disc brake people, yay, right? Okay. Also says that as they heat up, if they overheat, they bleed out the pressure much faster, or they leak air much faster. I wanted to cover a couple of more things in their FAQ, because I thought these were they were interesting tidbits, and I thought I'd share them with you. They say, there's plenty there, but I'm just going to cover a couple of them, or more than a couple. But can Tubolitos be patched? Yes, but as I mentioned before, my vendor is out of them. We'll wait on those. Can Tubolitos be used with sealant or repair sprays? And it's funny because the ones they mention, either I've never heard of or I don't have access to. So yes, we perform tests with different products. Following products seal Tubolitos: sealant, Oco puncture free bike. I don't know what that is. Repair spray, you could use a Nigrin Reifendike. Vittoria Pit Stop Super Magnum, Tip Top Pana Spray, which I haven't seen, and Goop Kiki. And then residues of tubeless milk do not harm Tubolito products. So these are the ones that they say, but whatever you guys want to put in your tube, you'll have to experiment with that. They claim that air retention is about the same as butyl. Now, in the first couple of days I had them just before the ride, I thought it dropped a little more than it would on a butyl, but we'll have to see over time. Tubolitos for rim brakes. So they claim that it complies with a test called the DIN 4210, which is 15 minutes of braking with a maximum of 10 by 10 second interruptions. So I'm guessing that means 10 on, 10 off, 10 on, 10 off, 10 on, 10 off, I guess, right? With aluminum and carbon rims. When I descend, it has to be something really, really steep, and it has to be something curvy and twisty, because, there's just no need to have constant braking on your carbon or, rim or disc. Just let go of the brakes and descend, have fun. But if it's 20-something% grade and it's rocky or something, or it's very twisty, yeah, I'm on the brakes. But even still, front brake, rear brake, front brake, rear brake, instead of letting these things heat up. But just thought you would want to know that, because I'm guessing also if people are trying to build a lightweight bike for climbing or something, and you're saving anywhere from, 50 to 100 grams per tube, that's a quarter pound, right? So who knows? Maybe that's what you're using your rim brake bike for. Okay. Now, they mention again that the minimum and maximum pressure is based on the tire, but when it's outside of the tire, they mention again that 7 psi thing. And then I mentioned before about moving tubes around from tire to tire. Can you use CO2? Yes, you can, and just the usual stuff. We know that CO2 bleeds a little bit faster, and that's it for the frequently asked questions. But I want to hear from folks, and tell me what's going on with your usage of these TPUs. Are you using them on a daily basis? Are you using them just for spare tubes? The form factor on these is, these things are tiny, right? So I can understand why people would want to just carry this as a spare, because of the small space that it'll take up. Maybe you can carry 2 tubes in a bag that is very small, and so you have plenty of space. But so far, punctures on with a goat head, and I was able to patch it. So we'll see. I'm going to ride a different bike, different wheels, different stuff altogether tomorrow, and we'll let these sit for another day or so and see how much pressure it drops. Okay, that's all for today. I don't care that you think I'm long-winded. Some people do like the long format content. So please, if you like, if you found the information useful and educational, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, but it means the world to me. Okay, thank you so much for your time and your attention. We'll see you up the road.